I promise, Morenike, let's make a covenant here by the Olumora River, so that our love will be bound forever. His words were spoken with conviction, a promise that he intended to keep. He wanted to show her that his love for her was real, that it was something that would last forever. Without realizing the weight of what they were about to do, they each took a knife, cut their fingers, and let their blood mix in the palm of their hands. They made a solemn oath, promising that they would always love each other and that nothing would ever come between them. It was a moment of pure love, a moment that they believed would bind them together forever. But as soon as their blood touched the ground, the river began to roar loudly, as if something ancient and powerful had been awakened. A cold wind swept through the trees, and both Ajibola and Morenike felt a shiver run down their spines. The peaceful river that had once been a source of comfort now seemed threatening, its waters shining and bubbling as if in anger. In the quiet village of Olumora, nestled between tall mountains and surrounded by whispering forests, there lived a young boy named Ajibola, known throughout the village for his kind heart and towering stature. Ajibola was a figure of admiration among the villagers. He always wore a warm smile, especially when he was with his beloved Morenike. Morenike was a beautiful girl with a gentle heart, and her eyes carried a light that brightened the darkest corners of the village. Her laughter was like the twinkling of bells, a sound that brought joy to everyone who heard it. Ajibola and Morenike were inseparable, bound by a love that was as old as time itself. Every morning, the village of Olumora woke up to the sound of roosters calling, mothers calling their children, and the shatter of villagers heading to their daily task. The village was always alive with activity, with people going about their lives, tending to their farms and taking care of their families. The village had a certain charm to it, a sense of peace that was hard to find anywhere else. The villagers were a close-knit community, always ready to help one another, and they took pride in their simple but fulfilling lives. One early morning, Ajibola stepped out of his small mud brick home. The cool breeze of the morning ruffled his hair as he made his way towards the farm, a place where he often found solace in the calm ambience of nature. The farm was his sanctuary, a place where he could lose himself in the work and let his mind wander. He enjoyed the quiet, the sense of purpose that came with tending to the land. It was hard work, but it was honest, and it gave him a sense of fulfillment that nothing else could. As Ajibola approached the Olumora River, which sparkled like diamonds under the morning sun, he spotted Morenike on the same path. She was also heading to the farm, her steps light and joyful. Seeing each other filled their hearts with happiness, and they quickly embraced, their laughter echoing through the trees. It was a moment of pure joy, a simple expression of the love they shared. They were young and in love, with their whole lives ahead of them, and nothing seemed more important than the time they spent together. Morenike was the first to speak, her voice filled with excitement. Ajibola, I heard the news. Congratulations on your admission to the University of Lagos. I am so proud of you. Her words were sincere, a reflection of the pride she felt for him. She had always believed in him, always known that he was destined for great things. The news of his admission had filled her with joy, and she couldn't wait to share in his happiness. Ajibola's face lit up even more at her words. Thank you, Morenike. Your own time will come soon. I am sure of it. He meant every word. His belief in her just as strong as her belief in him. They had always supported each other, always believed in each other's dreams. It was one of the things that made their relationship so special. They were partners, equals, each pushing the other to be the best they could be. But as he said this, he noticed Morenike's smile fading. She became quiet, her eyes filled with worry. Ajibola gently touched her arm, sense evident in his voice. "Morenike, what's troubling you?" he asked, his brow furrowing with worry. He hated to see her upset, hated the thought that something was bothering her. Morenike hesitated for a moment before speaking softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "Ajibola, I am happy for you, but I am afraid. What if you find someone else when you get to Lagos? What if you forget about me?" Her words were laced with fear, a fear that came from the depths of her heart. She loved him more than anything in the world, and the thought of losing him was more than she could bear. Ajibola shook, shaking his head in disbelief. "Is that what is bothering you, Morenike? No one can take your place in my heart. Only death can separate us." His words were meant to reassure her, to let her know that she had nothing to worry about. He loved her with all his heart, and nothing could ever change that. But Morenike wasn't convinced. Her fear was rooted deep in her heart, a fear that had been growing ever since she heard the news of his admission. "Ajibola," she whispered, her voice trembling, "promise me you will never leave me. Promise me that we will be together no matter what." Her words were play, a desperate attempt to hold on to the love they shared. She couldn't bear the thought of losing him, couldn't bear the thought of a future without him. Ajibola, wanting to ease her mind and show her how much he loved her, agreed without hesitation. "I promise, Morenike. Let's make a covenant here by the Olumora River so that our love will be bound forever." His words were spoken with conviction, a promise that he intended to keep. He wanted to show her that his love for her was real, that it was something that would last forever. Without realizing the weight of what they were about to do, they each took a small knife, cut their fingers, and let their blood mix in the palm of their hands. They made a solemn oath, promising that they would always love each other and that nothing would ever come between them. It was a moment of pure love, a moment that they believed would bind them together forever. But as soon as their blood touched the ground, the river began to roar loudly, as if something ancient and powerful had been awoken. A cold wind swept through the trees, and both Ajibola and Morenike felt a shiver run down their spines. The peaceful river that had once been a source of comfort now seemed threatening, its water shining and bubbling as if in anger. Ajibola grabbed Morenike's hand tightly, his heart pounding in his chest. "Did you hear that? We should leave this place," he said, his voice filled with fear. The earlier joy they had felt was now replaced with a sense of dread, a feeling that something terrible had just happened. Terrified, they hurried away from the river, not realizing that their covenant had been witnessed by the spirit of the river, a powerful and vengeful entity known in Olumora as the Mammy Water. The Mammy Water was a spirit that had lived in the river for centuries, a being of immense power who did not take kindly to those who made oaths by her waters. She had seen what they had done, and she was not pleased. Back in the Olufolaji household, the warm aroma of dinner filled the air as Mrs. Sarah Olufolaji prepared the evening meal. She was a kind woman who always put her family first, and she took great pride in caring for them. Her kitchen was a place of comfort, a place where she could show her love for her family through the meals she prepared. Ajibola and his younger sister, Oluwaseun, were helping their mother in the kitchen, their hands busy with the tasks they had been assigned. The kitchen was filled with laughter and the sound of chopping vegetables, a scene of domestic bliss that was a stark contrast to the dark events that had taken place at the river. Mr. Olufolaji, Ajibola's father, walked into the house, his face beaming with pride. "Ajibola, how are you preparing for school? I received the letter today. We will be starting at the University of Lagos next week on the 18th of January 2001. His voice was filled with pride, a reflection of how much his son's success meant to him. He had always believed in Ajibola, always known that he was destined for great things. The entire family erupted in joy at his words. Olumora was a small village, and out of the 100 students who took the JAMB exam, only 10 had passed. Ajibola was one of them, a fact that filled the Olufolajimi family with immense pride. It was a moment of celebration, a moment that they had all been waiting for. As Mrs. Olufolaji finished cooking, she set the food on the table and called her family to join her. Just as they were about to start, there was a knock on the door. It was Morenike, accompanied by her younger brother. They were welcomed warmly, and the family invited them to join in the celebration. The Olufolaji family had always considered Morenike as one of their own, and they were happy to have her join them in their moment of joy. Mr. Olufolaji poured wine into everyone's glasses and raised his cup in a toast. "To the success of my son, Ajibola at the University of Lagos," he declared, his voice filled with emotion. Everyone echoed his words, their voices ringing out in unison. Amen. It was a moment of pure joy, a moment that they would remember for the rest of their lives. But while the family was filled with happiness, unseen voices washed from the depths of the Olumora River. The Mammy Water, a spirit with a heart hardened by centuries of solitude, plotted in silence. She had seen the covenant that Ajibola and Morenike had made, and she was not pleased. She had been searching for someone to join her in her internal loneliness, and now she had set her sights on Ajibola. After the celebration, Ajibola and Morenike stepped outside into the cold night air. The moon was high in the sky, casting a soft glow over the village. The sounds of crickets, chirping, and the distant hooting of an owl filled the silence between them. For a while, they simply stood there, holding hands, both lost in their thoughts. The joy of the evening celebration was still fresh in their minds, but the events at the river lingered like a shadow, casting a pall over their happiness. Morenike, feeling the weight of the silence, reached into the bag she had brought with her. "Ajibola," she said softly, "I have something for you." She handed him a large bag, her eyes filled with both love and worry. Ajibola took the bag and opened it, his eyes widening in surprise as he saw the contents. Inside were clothes, shoes, provisions, and a sum of 10,000 naira. His heart swelled with gratitude and love for Morenike. "Morenike, where did you get all those things?" he asked, his voice filled with surprise. Morenike smiled, though it was tingled with sadness. "I have been saving up for you ever since you started preparing for your exams. I wanted to make sure you had everything you needed when you went to Lagos." Her words were filled with sincerity, a reflection of how much she cared for him. She had always put him first, always thought of his needs before her own. Ajibola was deeply moved by her gesture. He reached out and took her hand. His voice soft but firm. Morenike, I love you. I will always love you. No matter where I go, no matter what happens, you will always be the one I come back to. His voice were a promise, a vow that I intended to keep. Morenike smiled, though there was a hint of sadness in her eyes. I love you too, Ajibola, but please promise me again that you won't forget about me. Promise me that you will come back for me. Her voice trembled as she spoke, her fears once again coming to the surface. Ajibola pulled her into his arms, holding her close. I promise, Morenike, I will come back for you. We will be together just as we've always dreamed. He kissed her forehead, his heart aching with the depth of his love for her. They stayed like that for a long time, holding each other under the moonlight, as if trying to freeze this moment in time. But as the night wore on, the shadows seemed to grow thicker, and the air grew colder. It was as if the very night itself was warning them of the danger that lay ahead. Eventually they parted ways, each heading to their respective homes. But neither could shake the feeling of unseen that clung to them. The covenant they had made, the words they had spoken by the river, weighed heavily on their minds. The days passed quickly, and soon the time came for Ajibola to leave for Lagos. The entire village of Olumora gathered to see him off, their hearts filled with pride and hope. Ajibola was the pride of the village. The boy who had made it out, who had a chance at a better life. They all believed that he would go on to do great things, that he would bring honor to their small village. Morenike was there too, standing at the edge of the crowd, her heart heavy with both pride and sorrow. She watched as Ajibola said his goodbyes, his face filled with excitement and a touch of sadness. When he finally reached her, they stood in silence for a moment, simply looking at each other. Morenike, Ajibola said, his voice soft, I will write to you every week, and as soon as I can, I will come back to see you, I promise. His words were meant to reassure her, to ease the fear he knew she was feeling. Morenike nodded, trying to smile, though tears filled her eyes. I know, Ajibola, I will be waiting for you. Her voice was barely above a whisper, her heart aching with the thought of being apart from him. Ajibola reached out and gently wiped away her tears. Don't cry, Morenike. We will be together again soon. Just hold on a little longer. He kissed her cheek, his own heart heavy with the thought of leaving her behind. With one last look, Ajibola turned and boarded the bus that would take him to Lagos. As the bus pulled away, Morenike watched it until it disappeared from sight, her heart aching with the emptiness that came with his departure. Time passed slowly for Morenike after Ajibola left. The days seemed to stretch on endlessly, each one filled with the ache of missing him. She would go to the farm, work with her hands, and try to lose herself in the tasks that once brought her peace. But nothing could fill the void that Ajibola's absence had left in her heart. True to his word, Ajibola wrote to her every week. His letters were filled with tales of life in Lagos, of the friends he was making and the things he was learning. But as time went on, the letter became less frequent, the words less personal. Morenike tried to tell herself that he was just busy, that he still loved her as much as ever, but deep down, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was changing. The Mammy Water watched all of this with cold, calculating eyes. She saw how Morenike pained for Ajibola, how the love between them seemed to wither as the days passed. And she saw in Ajibola the potential for something much darker, something she could use to her advantage. One night, as Ajibola was studying in a small room in Lagos, he felt a strange presence in the room. The air grew cold, and the shadows seemed to shift and move of their own accord. He looked up, his heart pounding, and saw a figure standing in the corner of the room. It was a woman, her skin pale and her eyes glowing with an unnatural light. Her hair flowed like water, and she seemed to shimmer as if made of mist. Ajibola's heart raced with fear, but he couldn't look away from her. "Ajibola," the woman said, her voice soft but commanding. "Do you know who I am?" Ajibola shook his head, his voice caught in his throat. "I am the Mammy Water, the spirit of the Olumora River," she said, her voice sending chills down his spine. "You made a covenant by my water, and now you belong to me." Ajibola felt his blood run cold. He remembered the day by the river, the promise he had made to Morenike, and the strange sound that had echoed through the air. He had thought it was nothing, but now he realized how wrong he had been. "What do you want from me?" he asked, his voice trembling with fear. The Mammy Water smiled, a cold, cruel smile. "You promised to love Morenike forever, but you will break that promise. You will forget her, and you will come to me." Ajibola shook his head, his heart pounding in his chest. "No, I love Morenike. I would never forget her." The Mammy Water smile grew wider, more sinister. "You say that now, but you will. You will forget her, and when you do, you will be mine." With those words, the Mammy Water vanished, leaving Ajibola trembling in fear and confusion. He tried to shake off the encounter, telling himself it was just a bad dream, a figment of his imagination. But deep down, he knew that it was real, and he knew that the Mammy Water's words were not a threat but a promise. As the weeks turned into months, Ajibola found himself becoming more distant from Morenike. The letter he once wrote with such love and care became fewer and farther between, and when he did write, the words felt hollow and forced. He found himself thinking less and less about her, and more about the life he was building in Lagos. Morenike, on the other hand, could feel the change in his letters. The words that once brought her comfort now filled her with dread. She could sense a distance growing between them, and it tore at her heart. She tried to stay hopeful, to believe in the promise they had made by the river, but it was becoming harder and harder to hold on to that. Back in Olumora, the villagers began to notice a change in Morenike. The once vibrant and joyful girl had become quiet and withdrawn. Her laughter, a distant memory. She spent more and more time by the Olumora River, staring into the waters as if searching for something. The elders of the village, wise in the ways of the spirits, began to whisper among themselves. They knew the stories of the Mammy Water, the spirit who dwelleth in the river, and they feared that Morenike had somehow fallen under her influence. They tried to warn her, to tell her to stay away from the river, but Morenike wouldn't listen. She was drawn to the river as if it held the answers to the question that blocked her heart. One night, unable to bear the weight of her sorrow any longer, Morenike went to the river and called out to the Mammy Water spirit. "Spirit of the river," she cried, her voice filled with desperation. "Please tell me what I must do. How can I save my love?" The river was still for a moment, and then the water began to shine and bubble. The Mammy Water rose from the depths, her eyes glowing with an airy light. She looked at Morenike with a cold smile, her voice like the hiss of the wind. "You cannot save him, Morenike. It belongs to me now." Morenike's heart shattered at the spirit's words. "No!" she cried, tears streaming down her face. "He promised me. He promised we would be together." The Mammy Water smile widened. "Promises made by the river are binding, Morenike. But Ajibola has already begun to forget you. Soon he will be mine, and there is nothing you can do to stop it." Despair gripped Morenike's heart, and she fell to her knees by the river bank. "Please," she begged, her voice choked with sobs. "There must be something I can do. I love him, I can't lose him." The Mammy Water looked at Morenike with a cold, calculating gaze. "There is one thing you can do," she said slowly, her voice filled with malice. "You can give yourself to me in his place." Morenike looked up at the spirit, her eyes wide with fear and determination. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice trembling. "If you give yourself to me, if you become mine, I will release Ajibola from the covenant," Mammy Water explained, her voice like ice. "He will be free to live his life, to love whoever he chooses. But you, Morenike, will belong to me forever." Morenike's heart pounded in her chest. She knew what the spirit was asking of her, knew the price she would have to pay, but she also knew that she couldn't live without Ajibola, couldn't bear the thought of him forgetting her, of their love being lost forever. With tears streaming down her face, Morenike nodded. "I will do it," she said, her voice filled with sorrow but also with resolve. "I will give myself to you, if it means that Ajibola will be free." The Mammy Water smile was triumph. "Very well," she said, her voice echoing through the night. "Come to me, Morenike, and take your place by my side." Morenike stood, her legs shaking, and slowly walked into the river. The water was cold, but she didn't feel it. Her heart was numb, her mind focused only on the thought of saving Ajibola. As the water reached her waist, the Mammy Water reached out and took her hand, pulling her deeper into the river's depth. As the water closed over her head, Morenike felt a strange sense of peace. She had made her choice, and she knew it was the right one. She would do anything for Ajibola, even if it meant giving up her own life. Back in Lagos, Ajibola awoke with a start, his heart pounding in his chest. He had been dreaming of Morenike, of the river, and of the Mammy Water. But as he sat up in bed, the details of the dream began to fade, slipping from his mind like water through his fingers. He tried to hold on to the memory, to the image of Morenike's face, but it was no use. The harder he tried to remember, the more he slipped away, until all that was left was a vague sense of unease. The next day, he received a letter from Olumora. It was from his father, telling him that Morenike had disappeared. The villagers had searched for her, but there was no trace of her anywhere. The only clue was a single footprint by the river bank leading into the water. Ajibola's heart shattered as he read the letter. He couldn't believe that Morenike was gone, couldn't believe that he had lost her. The pain was unbearable, a deep, gunning ache that tore at his very soul. But as the days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months, the pain began to fade. The memory of Morenike, once so vivid and clear, began to blur and fade. He found himself thinking less and less about her, until one day, he realized with a start that he couldn't remember her face at all. The Mammy Water kept her promise. Ajibola was free to live his life and love whoever he chose. But the price had been high, and it was one that Morenike had paid with her own life. In the depths of the Olumora River, the Mammy Water watched with cold satisfaction as Morenike took her place by her side. The girl's spirit was now hers, burnt to the river for all eternity. The Mammy Water had won, and Ajibola would never know the true cost of his freedom. But in the quiet moments, when the world was still and the river was calm, the Mammy Water could hear Morenike's voice, whispering a name that had once meant everything to her. And though the Mammy Water was a creature of the deep, cold, and unfeeling, there were times when even she could not silence the faint echo of a love that had once burned so bright. And so the story of Ajibola and Morenike became a tale whispered among the villagers of Olumora, a story of love, loss, and the price of making promises by the river. The river, once a source of life and sustenance, became a place of fear and reference, a place where the villagers would go only when necessary and never alone. As for Ajibola, he continued with his studies, eventually graduating from the University of Lagos with honors. He went on to have a successful career, marrying a woman he met in the city and raising a family of his own. But though he lived a full life, there was always a part of him that felt incomplete, a part of him that sensed that something was missing. Though he could never quite remember what it was. And sometimes in the quiet of the night, when the world was dark and still, he would find himself standing by the window looking out at the sky, his heart filled with a longing he couldn't name. It was as if a part of him was searching for something or someone that he had lost long ago. But no matter how hard he tried, he could never quite remember her face, never quite remember the name that had once meant everything to him. And so he would turn away from the window, telling himself that it was just a dream, just a trick of the mind, and the river, now quiet and calm, would continue to flow, carrying with it the whispers of a love that had been lost but never truly forgotten. The villagers of Olumora would tell the story to their children, warning them of the dangers of making promises by the river, of the price that must be paid when one makes a covenant with the Mammy Water. And in the depths of the Olumora River, the Mammy Water would smile, knowing that she had claimed yet another soul, another victim of a love that had dared to challenge her power. And though Morenike's spirit would never be free, the memory of her love for Ajibola would live on, a testament to the power of a love that could defy even the most ancient and powerful of spirits. But the story of Ajibola and Morenike would not be the last, for the river was ancient and patient, and the Mammy Water knew that there would always be others, always be those who would come to the river seeking to make promises, to bind their love with oaths that they did not fully understand. And so the river would continue to flow, its water carrying with them the echoes of love, loss, and the promises that had been made and broken by its banks. And the Mammy Water would wait, knowing that it was only a matter of time before another came to her, another who would make the same mistake, who would pay the same price. For the river was eternal, and so too was the Mammy Water, her power growing with each soul she claimed, each love she destroyed. And though the villagers of Olumora would continue to tell the story to warn their children of the dangers of the river, there would always be those who would come, who would make promises they could not keep. And so the story would continue, the river flowing ever onward, its waters carrying with them the whispers of a love that had been lost but never truly forgotten. Thank you for watching. Please, if you enjoy my story, please click the subscribe button, like, share, and turn on the notification button for more interesting stories. Thank you.